Good afternoon, everyone, friends and family of Manuel Mendoza. At this time, I would ask everybody to please put your phones on silent back to the service, please, on silent or airplane mode so it doesn't go off while we're on the services, please. And I'd like to welcome everybody to the viewing and the services for Mr. Manuel Mendoza. My name is Norberto Ojeda, better known as Beto Ojeda. I've known Manny for over 35 years when my brother married his daughter, Lily. I've known the man for a very long time. He's a very kind gentleman to me. And I just like to tell the family that take comfort in knowing that he's not in pain anymore. His body is whole. He's not hurting no more. That should bring comfort to all of us, that knowing that you can see a smiling face without him being in pain. We're going to miss his presence, but we know he's in a better place. Right? Bienvenidos a todos, la familia de los Ojedas y los Mendozas. Manuel era un buen amigo mío, lo quiero mucho. Que lo conozco, tiene 5 años que lo conozco a Manuel. Siempre fue un hombre firme con nosotros. Era bien trabajador y quería mucho a su familia. He was a hardworking man, and he loved his family. He raised a good family. At this time, we're going to start off with a prayer. And I'm asked Maria Isabel, my sister, our custom is to start off about any kind of meeting with a prayer. Could you offer some prayer, Isabel, for what?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for everyone that was able to come. And we ask you to give the family the strength for this difficult time that they are going through, that you may watch over them and us. This service may be a beautiful one to remember Manuel. We are truly going to miss him. We love you and we thank you for this opportunity to get together under the circumstances. And this I say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have a treatment to Manuel Mendoza, followed by Miguel Ojeda. Sister who? Sister Post is invited to speak to us, please. I'm sorry, just say.
Thank you, Sister Post. That was so beautiful. I wish I didn't have to speak right now. I feel like crying when she was singing. One of the words she said in her song, I hope heaven knows what they have. It's funny. Well, not sure I should say it's funny, but Manuel's heart gave out. Manuel had one of the biggest hearts. I know that because I've been in the family for over 40 years. He was not only a friend, he was not only my father-in-law. To me, he was more like my dad. Always had advice, and he always chose his words wisely. For those of you that know Manuel, he was a detailed person. He wanted to know everything by detail. If he was going to build something, he wanted to know how much the lumber was going to cost, how many pieces of wood he was going to buy, the size, everything. He wanted to know every single thing. Drove me nuts. I did some work for Manuel. I digged a hole for him about 5 feet deep to fix some plumbing. And I must have spent an hour explaining to him the work I was going to do. I think it took me more explaining to him than actually doing the work. That's the kind of person Manuel was. Also, you ever done with Manuel driving? This guy had every single map of every single city. When Fredo and I were going through some of this stuff, we found boxes of maps. Boxes, I'm literally boxes of maps. Other countries. And it's funny because some of these maps were about 25 years old, and he still used them. I remember one time we went to Union City or somewhere, we were somewhere, and he had one of those old maps. Well, Union City has changed a lot. Some of the Decatur, some of the streets have changed. They're blocked off. They're no longer there. So he got confused. He said, "I think you better go this way." He looked at his map, and I go, "I don't think so. My GPS told me to go this way." No, might go this way. So you never get into it. And okay, my love, I'm going your way. Next thing you know, we're lost. Yeah. That's okay. He honestly did what he thought was best. Manuel Mendoza was born March 5th, 1938. Why do I know that so well? For the past 7 years, I used to go to the drugstore and get his medication. The first thing they ask, what is his date of birth? March 5th, 1938. What is his address? Anyway, I would get him his medication for him, and that I would do for him is something I'm going to charge for the rest of my life. And I hope I don't make anybody feel uncomfortable, make anybody jealous or whatever. But I was the only one that drove his 56 Chevy. He would not let anybody touch that car. And he must have given me an hour lecture before he even drive that car. Mike, this is that, this is this, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, we gotta check the oil, we gotta check the brake, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. Manuel, I've driven this kind of car. My brother used to own a 57. I know how to drive this. I learned on an old El Camino. I've driven old cars. I used to own a 1940 Chevy Coupe. I grew up in old cars. But anyway, Manuel, again, was a detailed person. He wanted to make sure all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed. And I'll tell you what, he was absolutely right. A lot of us, we would buy something and we'd try to put it back together again and end up breaking it. Not Manuel, he wanted to read it. Well, let's see. And he read it over and over and over. He goes, okay. But he wouldn't know what he was doing. And he did it right the first time. And I'll tell you, I learned a lot from him. He honestly was a very, very wise man. As his two brothers know, or his brother and his sisters know, Frank and Ramona, they know, is that he came to America with nothing. Just him and his wife and his kids, some of his kids. They had nothing, and he did well for himself here in this country. He talked about all of his family members. He talked about you the most, Frank. He talked about you the most. Yeah. He said, every time I play an oldie song, he goes, this is where the song that my brother learned how to speak English. You know what song that was? Just Because. Just Because. So every time I hear that song, man, you know, Frank and Manuel. And by the way, Manuel had many, many names. I call him Manuelito for many, many years, and I call Manuelita for many, many years. It's just a habit now. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, right? Anyway, but Manuel had many, many names. At work, they used to call him Automatic. Why? Because some people say, manual, what's manual? Well, automatic manual. But you know what? To his family, he was called Grandpa. When I was referred to him, Grandpa. He had a lot of grandkids. So we used to always use the word Grandpa. And he loved all of his grandpa. All of his grandkids, all of his grandkids. And all of his kids, of course. Manuel, you are one of a kind. And you know, honestly, it is not goodbye. It is not goodbye, Manuel. You're going to be with us all the time. I mean, you left memories with us for the rest of our lives that we're not going to forget, that we're going to tell our kids, our grandkids. about Manuel, how he's always had to go out, have to have his sunglasses, have to have his reading glasses, and have to have a pen. He wouldn't go nowhere with all the three things. And then towards the end, you have to have his hat. I don't know what it is with the Mendozas. Y'all gotta wear hats. That's what he said. I was telling Frank earlier outside, when we go to heaven, we get all of our hair back. Okay, so we're younger, we're healthier, and we get all of our hair back. If we're missing an arm, a leg, a toe, or whatever, that part is back on again. So don't worry about it. There'll be a day where that hat's thrown away. You know, Manuel loved his brothers and sisters so much that whenever opportunity was there, he would go to all the functions. And I do mean quinceañeras, weddings, parties. He loved going to those. He didn't like going to funerals. He went to funerals also because he loved his family, his siblings, his nephews, his nieces, his compadres, comadres. And right now, you know what he's doing right now? He is in heaven with a lot of the family members that have gone before him, and they are celebrating, having a good time, just like when I haven't seen Frank in a long time. I haven't seen the people in a long, long time. We give each other hugs, abrazos, and all that stuff. That's exactly what he's doing right now in heaven. He is so happy right now to see his mom and his dad and his brothers and sisters, Juan, and everybody else that has gone before him. He is in a happy state right now. And you know what? He'll come down and he'll come and visit us. And he'll even come to our dreams sometimes and visit us in our dreams. And I'm going to ask you guys to do yourselves a favor. If he does come to you in a dream, do this. I do it. Try it. Get yourself a pad. Especially the family members, the nephews, the grandkids, and the kids. Get yourself a pen and a pad. And if you have a dream, write down the date and write down the dream you had. And every once in a while, read those dreams because they're not going to come very often, but when they do come, it's something you're going to want to have. I have many, many dreams of my mom visiting me. And I like going back and reading them. So if you guys want to do that for yourselves. Again, please, if Manuel was here right now, he would tell you, I'm happy where I'm at right now. Don't cry for me, please. Please don't. If you knew where I was at right now and the love that I have right now by Heavenly Father, feel comfort. Please feel comfort that all the pain, all the suffering that we had on earth, it's over with. He had a good life here. He was loved by many. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for COVID, we could probably fill up a stadium. I'm not lying. We could fill up a stadium because he had a lot of people that loved him. But we had to cut the numbers down, and I apologize for those that couldn't make it because of the church only allowed so many people here. We had to cut the numbers down, and the family apologizes deeply because of that. But anyway, thank you very much for coming. The next speaker we're going to have is going to be Alfredo Mendoza. That's one of his sons. He'll give the eulogy and he'll talk more about this great, awesome man that I call Manuelito. Alfredo, the podium's all yours.
Hello, everyone. They tell me I look a lot like my father, and I'm also detail-oriented. So as most of you know, my name is Alfredo. I'm the oldest of the children. Mike's had a hard act to follow. Also, he didn't leave me enough time. Be that as it may, he did set the tone. Celebration of life. When I first heard that term, I thought, what is this? Is it a euphemism for a funeral? Is it, like companies sometimes make up holidays just so they can sell stuff? But the more I thought about it, though, it is a celebration. We should be laughing. We should be reminiscing. It's perfect. He had a remarkable life. He had many names. Manuel, but his Abba, he was a good husband, grandfather, if you've heard, father, of course, father-in-law. I wasn't going to do the speaking this morning. He did come from humble beginnings, but he valued education, hard work, but most of all, family. He was a strong, silent type, although he had a sense of humor. He loved to dance, that's why all the parties. And he touched many lives. My grandparents lived and worked in the United States, and most of the 17 children were born in the United States. But with the Depression, the family moved back to Mexico. So the last few children were actually born in Mexico, including my father. And it was during the Great Depression. So life was hard. He had to leave school early. Maybe he had a sixth, maybe an eighth grade education or so. But he was a smart man. And I think I always regretted that he didn't have the opportunity to have more education. He worked in the fields, he worked delivering things to restaurants, and he worked at Mel's Diner as a cook in Oakland. So he had many jobs. But earlier on, when he was a teenager, he met this girl. My grandparents were Francisco and Francisca. My father's name is Manuel. So he asked this young woman what her name was. He thought she was joking when she said, Manuela. Now, my first name is Jose. But no, my wife's name is not Josefina. But anyway, they started a family. They ended up with 5 children at the time. But it was hard making a living over there. So he came to California, sent back money, and worked on getting the green cards for some of our family. For myself, for Aman, Lilia. The rest of the kids were were born in the United States, so they were okay. It took a while, but the family was separated. Finally, we were able to move to California. When we first moved, I remember sharing an apartment, the whole family, with my Tio Lupe in Alameda. We were only there for a few months. Then we moved to Oakland to a 4-room house. Not 4-bedroom, 4 rooms. The entire family. My Uncle Pancho came to live with us for a while. But that's what happened with the Mendoza family. We would help each other. So a lot of my aunts and uncles helped us along the way. including my aunts and uncles from El Paso who weren't able to attend, but I hope they're seeing us live. While he was working in Oakland, he wanted to better himself. Like I said, he wanted education. So while still working, he joined a program where he went to learn English, of course, and upholstery, to have some sort of vocation. At that time, the economy turned around. It was doing well. United Airlines offered this school that they would take on 8 to 10 students to work with United. So they did some testing, interviews, the whole bit. But only 2 were actually hired on, my father and one other person. At United, he continues his self-education. He studied. I remember coming home, seeing him with books open, all kinds of technical stuff that I didn't understand. But he earned certificates and eventually became a machinist for United Airlines. He eventually ended up working on airplane or jet engines. I'm sure all of you remember when somebody looks out the window and the engine's on fire and you think, what's the heck is going on? Well, he helped to maintain those engines so that would not happen. So it helps to be a little meticulous to do that. We'll get back to that in a minute. He loved to learn, and he passed his love of learning to his children. Many of us have gone to college and had careers, including the grandchildren. He was very proud of us. He, by disposition and background, and perhaps generational, he was kind of a strong, silent type. He's not very communicative. He didn't, but he had a way of, without saying words, letting you know how you feel. He wasn't a disciplinarian, but one look from him, the kids would quiet down and everything would be fine. And a lot of my uncles were like that too, now that I think about it. I remember my Tio Rogelio in El Paso. Now, he actually kind of terrified me. and I don't know why, because he was a real nice man. My dad was not a hugger. And our family grew up and we just didn't hug. That's the way it was. We didn't think anything of it. We thought it was normal. Till I met my wife, and she's from a family that hugs. The Sarabias. My mother-in-law, well, Pauline is back there. But they hugged all the time. And I thought, that's kind of cool, hugging and showing emotion. So I kind of thought, we should do more of that in our family. So I didn't talk to my father about it, but after a while, going back and forth from Fresno to San Jose, at first he said, "Hasta luego." Then I said, you know what, we should maybe shake hands. So I offered my hand, kind of awkwardly, but we're grown men, we can shake hands, that's okay. Through the years, we both grew, and later on we actually hugged. That was good, and I think he liked that. To this day, I think there's this rumor that some of us still cringe when we're hugged. So if that happens to any of you, don't take it personal. That's just the way we were raised. We're still working on it. It was mentioned before that he was meticulous. And you have to be to work on those jet engines, and that's a good thing. You have to have that mechanic that's good enough, that screw's tight enough. Not a good thing. But I didn't realize how meticulous he was until actually a few years ago when he first started having heart problems. He had to have a heart test. I forget exactly what it was, but it involved wires or cannulas, tubes going into the heart. To us doctors, it's routine. It's safe. It's done so routinely. It's done all kinds of times, and very few things happen. But rarely, very rarely, you can have a heart attack. You can even die. But we think of it as pretty routine. Of course, there's this long consent form that you have to sign. Consent forms are a little bit like when you buy a house, when you buy a car. These are long, complicated documents designed by lawyers. Sorry, but they're designed by lawyers to confuse us, and so they can keep their job. I guess I don't know. And most of us, they look at the document and it's pages long. You kind of look at it, and we kind of get the gist, and we sign it. We move on. A few days later, after that hospitalization, the nurse told us, in her career, he is the first person he read the document, page after page, line after line. And then it took a couple of phone calls from me explaining, this is a routine stuff. I know they said you can have a heart attack. That's not going to happen. They just have to put that in there. In fact, I think it took a couple of phone calls before he signed it. But that's how it is. As mentioned before, he and my mom became the patriarchs of the family. And we have a huge family, 17 siblings. I don't know how many cousins, I'm near 100. So there was always some function going on. A wedding, quinceañera. and both of them loved to dance. They'd be the first one out on the dance floor, the last one's out. They really loved to dance. I think that's how I knew that he was really sick, when he gave up dancing. So in conclusion, this should be a celebration of life. He had a wonderful life. He impacted many people. He came from humble beginnings through very hard work and drive, frankly. He raised and provided for a large family very successfully. He inspired and helped multiple generations of our family, extended family, and friends, which actually for us is like family. But he continues to live in our memories and in our hearts. Que Dios lo bendiga.
I want to say thank you to Miguel and Alfredo for their tribute. This time we're going to have a special music number. Following him, Andrew speak. Marcos first, and then Andrew. Okay, but we're going to have a special number. Okay.
Gracias quiero darte por amarme. Gracias quiero darte yo a ti. Si te ofendí, perdóname, Señor, pues te amo y ya no te olvidaré. Yo quiero ser un vaso nuevo, hecho en manos y barro del alfarero. Toma mi vida, hazla de nuevo. Yo quiero ser un vaso nuevo. Hoy soy feliz porque te conocí, pues te amo y ya no te olvidaré.
Gracias.
I had this dream about 3 times being up here. The one thing I can say about my grandfather was he was always there for each and every one of us. That's the person who he was. Graduations, ceremonies, like I already said, quinceañeras. I remember going to countless quinceañeras, countless of family reunions, other places, just because grandma and grandpa were going to be there, and it was family, and we had to be there for family. He was a jokester. He told us so many jokes, whether we were having a serious conversation or not. One joke or another would come out, and we would just start laughing to the point where, I'm not gonna lie, my stomach would hurt constantly, and I would have to probably run to the restroom after that. But again, that's the person who he was. He was always there for each and every one of us. He saw us grow up. I remember my graduation, he would always be there. If we just needed someone to talk to, he would be there. There was just that thing that he knew, that we just needed a talk, that we needed someone to talk to, and he would be there to listen and give us advice. Those are the memories I'm always gonna have of my grandfather. Thank you.
Okay, now, another grandson. Andrew.
I wrote my notes. I'm very meticulous like my grandfather. So maybe it's COVID and maybe we just don't really talk to each other very much, but I think me and my cousins could have coordinated our outfits a little bit better. First off, thank you all for coming with the global pandemic. We're really blessed to have been able to invite many of you. I know we weren't able to invite everyone. I thought a lot about what I should say. I thought a lot about what my grandfather would want me to say about him. My grandfather was never one to boast about himself, and I'm sure if he were here in the pews today, he'd feel rather uncomfortable hearing so many nice things said about him at one time. But that's why we're here today, to honor the family patriarch who paved his own path for his family to be where we are today. My grandfather, like has been mentioned, was a hardworking man. He carried himself with the quiet dignity of a person who earned your immediate respect once you met him. But he was also right to be around. As I've gotten older, I recognize some of the characteristics and attributes I've inherited from my grandfather, whether by genetics or by choice. My grandfather was a very sharp and had a very keen wit. I'd like to think a lot of us inherited this trait as grandchildren, for better or worse. Family gatherings are often a barrage of lighthearted quips and insults leveled with the most loving care. And if you're chatting with any of us later and you're the victim of my grandfather's wit, just know it's because we love you, and you can totally feel free to blame him. My grandfather was always mindful of the future. Maybe it was a result, like Frezzo said, of the generation he grew up in. But he always seemed ready for a rainy day, and I think that's something a lot of us inherited. A few of us cousins have talked about how many of us inherited my grandfather's frugalness, or as many of us might call it for what it is, stinginess. Heck, we even made sure to follow this in preparing for this funeral. Instead of a giant band to give my grandfather a grand exit, we splurged on just one single mariachi. All joking aside, my grandfather was a great example to all of us, and I think a lot of us have benefited from his example. Here are just a couple of valuable things I know I've personally learned or gained from my grandfather. Number one, before a trip, don't pack your car with the garage door open. Close it so people don't know you're about to leave out of town. Number two, always make sure you know where the bathroom is, especially when you're in a new place. And that might have been something I learned from my mom. Number three, when you wake up in the morning, make sure you hack out a lung like you've been smoking a pack your whole life for the last 50 years. That way everybody knows you're awake. And it really sounds like a joke, but just about every morning I'm reminded that I have my grandfather's nasal passages, and without a doubt it reminds me of him. Number four, Domingo means Sunday. As kids, my grandparents would always slip us grandchildren a couple dollars to enjoy in Santa Cruz or in San Francisco. We'd call it Domingo. It wasn't until I was embarrassingly older that I put two and two together and realized that Domingo meant Sunday. Lastly, number five, this may not have been easiest for his own children, but my grandfather made a true effort to show his grandchildren affection, even going so far as to say, "I love you" to us. And if you knew my family, those are not words that we casually throw around. So I'll go ahead and wrap up before I get in any more trouble. My grandfather lived a long and full life. A few Christmases ago, back when there were get-togethers and things were normal, I was sitting next to him and next to my grandfather after presents were open and faces were filled with smiles instead of face masks. It was one of the first Christmases I had after I got my first big kid job. It had been a surprise. I had been surprised with a small holiday bonus and bought myself a little watch as a reward. My grandfather really liked it, and I relayed the significance that it had to me. We talked for a while about his career and everything he's done. It was like talking to a hiker at the end of their hike while you're at the beginning of yours. He sat atop the mountain looking back at where he had been, the struggles he endured, and the victories he had. He was honest with me about how hard he had worked, both in his career, but in his family life and what it meant to him. You can tell he looked on his family, that he was proud of his life he was able to build for them. Every one of his children, his grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Me and my brothers went out that night and bought himself a similar watch as a Christmas present. After he passed away, my mom found it and gave it back to me. The leather was well worn, the batteries were dead, and the little band had been broken off from years of wear. Not many of us will be lucky enough to see the fruits of our labors, but I know my grandfather recognized that he had done well and now the rest is up to us. And by each of us to keep my grandfather and his legacy alive in our hearts. Thank you for being here and making my grandfather's life so meaningful. Thank you.
We want to thank all the speakers, and you can tell that Manuel was a great man by the way his children speak of him, his grandkids, and even his in-laws. At this time, what I like the most is the shirts. I remember Manuel, every time I went to his house, he'd wear those kind of shirts because they're cool or that's just the style. He always wore those shirts, and I commend you guys for wearing them as a tribute to a great guy. I love those shirts. They're cool. They're just cool to wear. At this time, we're going to open up the mic to anybody. It doesn't have to be family. If you feel something in your heart and you want to say it to the family, right now's the time to do it. And we got to be brief, okay? It can be 2 minutes. Just if you need to speak, if you need to say goodbye to Manuel, this is now's the time to do it because right now he's watching us. He's listening and he's smiling because he's saying, all my family's here, all in one room. He's watching us right now. And he's smiling and he's saying, don't feel sorry for me. My heart is full. I'm in no more pain. You guys are the ones in trouble. He's already crossed the veil. He's on the other side. He's another dimension. And if you want to speak, you're welcome to speak. Please.
God bless you. My name is Rosa Jimenez. This is my tío Manuel. When they moved over here to California, they would still visit El Paso. That was my father, Tío Rogelio, that my cousin spoke of. But they got along so well. My tia and my tío and all my other tias and tíos would go visit us, and the first thing they do is go to Juarez to dance all the time. And some of them spend time in our home longer than others, but we always look forward to seeing everybody visit us. He was such a kind man. My husband and I were born in El Paso and lived there for my 30 years over. And when we moved to California, we were very lonely because we were the only ones here other than all our aunts and uncles and cousins, but they were in the Bay Area and we were all the way in Stockton. Well, my tia Manuela and my tío Manuel made sure that we were very welcomed. They opened their home and would always invite us. And we would visit all our other cousins and uncles and aunts, but they were the ones. When my mother came over to visit me, which was almost every single year for the past 30 years, Tia and Tío would go visit to my house too, and my Tío Pancho did too, and my Tia Paulita and my Tia Ramona were always there. But my Tío opened his heart and his home. And my Tia, I'm so grateful for that. Him and my husband became the closest of friends they could be. I was amazed at their relationship, and I thank God for that. It is a great celebration. My mother passed away in December too, and we're blessed to have so many people here with us. We were only allowed 10 people there, but I'm so grateful, Tia, for everything, and I want to thank my Tia Ramona and my Tío Pancho and my Tias for showing us the love and respect for the Mendoza family. And I'll say, Tío, I'll see you soon. Save a place for us. Save some grace for us. We'll be there soon. Thank you. God bless you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Let me see if I could do this. My name is Chavela, and I've been around the family like since Mikey and Lily were dating. And I became a part of that family because my sisters were old enough to be like my mother. So Lily took me on as a sister. And when I met Manuela and Manuel, everybody calls Manuela something else, but I'm so used to Manuela, I can't change. They call her, ¿cómo se llama? Yeah. And Manuela at that time, I remember, real quiet, really wouldn't say much to me. And every time I'd come over with Lily, he was already leaving to work because he had the swing shift or night shift. But I remember I was privileged enough to always go to every function they had, and they were always dancing. I don't know if some of you remember, and it's been so long, I was so little. But all those memories I have, and I'm really honored to know this man. As we got older, even lately, I started spending the night a lot. And I'm really gonna miss the fact that when I would even call, he would always be the one to answer, because nobody answers their phone over there, nobody. And he would say, hello, and I said, Manuel, oh, Chavela, ¿cómo estás? And he said, ¿vas a venir? And si puedo, pues, yes. A whole year, this was torture for me that I wasn't able to come this past year, and I would just call and talk to Lily, of course, and always made me feel welcomed, and I felt like he was like a dad to me as much as he did for my brother. They always had their open arms. I wouldn't even knock. I'd just come in like I was one of the kids, and it's just an honor to know this man. And if everybody knows this man until this day, I would come over, the man was always dressed, always immaculate with his shirt, never, even when he was sick, he was still fit to tight. I'd go in the room and he was still nice and, cozy in there, but dressed. I was like, man, I hope I could be like that when I'm sick and, old and just have that power. But he was a very loving man, and it's going to be hard when I come over and watch novelas, because that's what he would do. It'd be a certain time, and him and Lily would be sitting there watching the novela, having a conversation over it. And I would be like in the mix of what's going on. I don't want to get involved because then I'm going to want to watch it when I get home. And, but I really love that man. And my condolences to the family. And I'm just glad I was able to be a part of it and have things to share and have my memories of him. And I love you guys so much. And thank you.
I just wanted to come up and say just something quick for my mom. And just want to say thank you again for being here, but also just thank you so much for being a great example of being how wonderful a big brother you can be to the whole family, and showing all of our cousins, tias, everybody, the whole entire family. You were a great example of how to love one another, be respectful, and I love you so much. I'm glad that I was able to have a conversation with you over the phone when you were in the hospital. I know with Corona, I couldn't see you, but I know that you were sick, and I was able to tell you that I love you. And I know how proud of me you were when I became a flight attendant. Sorry, I was for Delta. But again, I know that you were very proud of me, and you were always proud of me. Every time, I'm proud of all of the nieces, nephews, cousins, grandchildren, the whole entire family. But again, I love you, and thank you again for being a great example to all of us how to love our family.
So this is our little sister who was not mentioned earlier. She's the sixth child. I just want to come up here and Mike said earlier that, our father would not want to see us crying and in tears. But you can't help it when a piece of your heart is gone, and it'll be gone forever. There is no one that will ever take his place in our hearts. I thank God for giving us the best father, the best husband, the best grandfather and great-grandfather that we could ever have had. He was there for each and every one of us, like Alfredo said. He instilled in us family values, and education to him was so important. And he got to see so many of his children, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren do what he wanted to see them do in life. He supported us quietly, even when he knew what we were doing, the decisions we were making were the wrong ones. He never told us not to do it. He supported us. And when we fell, he was there to pick us up. And that's what I will miss. I will miss that man that just supported me through everything, each and every one of us. And he did learn to hug. And his grandchildren reaped the benefits of learning to say, I love you, Grandpa. And he would say, I love you too. Even on the phone, that was major. So I'd like to thank all the grandchildren for bringing that part of him out. I just love that man so much. And again, I thank God for giving him to us. He will be greatly missed. And I agree, he touched everybody's life, everybody that's here today. He helped so many. He was a humble and kind man. We love you, Dad. You'll always be with us. We will never forget you. And that part about being thrifty or cheap, he instilled that in all of us. These pieces of tissue are so important. We laugh because the girls seem to have gotten this from him. We can't use a napkin one time.
I get in trouble for not flushing the yellow. Because Dad taught us to conserve and preserve, but everything that he wanted us to do made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I take after him because I don't have a whole lot to say, but when I do say it, and just a few words need to be said sometimes, But yeah, he's taught us so much, and we carry him in us in every breath, every blood cell. He's in our genes. There's no way we could not have him with us. So, and everything that we do and the way that we think in our habits. So he's with us all.
I only have one thing to say. I cannot stand Trix cereal to see
So last night I was going through pictures, and Del Socorro is here, my mom's sister from Dallas. And I was going through some pictures and I found a napkin. And the napkin wrapped a stack of pictures. And he had taped it. I don't know how long that had been there. And it had her name across through it. It was a gift from her. I don't know when he prepared that for you, but I found it last night. In a napkin. We all love you. We love you, Dad. I will miss you so much. The pain that I feel is not because I feel that he's suffering, because I know he was suffering. but he was with his family when he left. He took his last breath in his home with dignity. With dignity. That's how he lived his life.
I think we should all do that like this.
Kind and humble, intelligent. You ask people, those are the words.
And he was
You
an
ask-
intellectual. I didn't know a lot of Dad's story, actually, as the youngest, but I always assumed that he was very educated. He was self-educated.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He read books.
He was very intellectual. I mean, I would have really long conversations with him about history and politics. He was really into history.
He spent endless hours talking to his grandchildren on the phone, in person. Matthew, who hardly ever speaks, I remember he and Ruth spent about an hour and a half to 2 hours one day after the Christmas celebration. They were in there for over an hour just talking.
Those of us that don't say much,
Have a lot to say.
we could talk to Dad or Grandpa. Yeah, he would bring us out of our shell.
Grandpa, we love you. You're with us forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have for one more person only, okay?
Yo soy Francisco Mendoza, hermano de Manuel. Él siempre fue una persona muy inteligente. Y cuando yo lo necesitaba, él estaba ahí para mí. He was always there when I needed him. I'm going to miss him a lot. Especially when he used to come out of the hospital when he was in and out. And I used to go to the store and buy mangoes for him. He loved it. You know, he did it. He enjoyed it. Le gustaba mucho que le comprara mangos después de que salía del hospital. Y él estaba contento. Ahora ya no tengo a mi hermano para llevarle unos mangos, pero en mi corazón sí va a estar siempre. Gracias.
Great, we're out of time. We have time for one more song from a special number, and then we're gonna ask Gloria Corpus, my sister, to give us a closing prayer because we're pressed for time, okay? We'd love to sit here and talk about Manuel, but we're pressed for time.
No me digas adiós, sino hasta luego. Dios determinó que en el cielo estoy mejor. No me digas adiós, sino hasta luego. Tuve que partir a un lugar donde no voy a sufrir. No me digas adiós, sino hasta luego. No te preocupes más por mí, porque donde estoy espero por ti. No me digas adiós, sino hasta luego. No tengas miedo de morir, no tengas miedo. Y aunque tenga que alejarme será tan solo por un momento, porque yo estaré esperándote en el cielo. No me digas adiós, sino hasta luego. No tengas miedo de morir, no tengas miedo, que aunque tenga que alejarme será tan solo por un momento, porque yo estaré esperándote en el cielo, porque yo estaré esperándote en el cielo, porque yo estaré esperándote en el cielo. No me digas adiós, sino hasta luego.
Thank you for the privilege of being in this funeral. Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, as we come behind before you to celebrate this beautiful celebration of life, to know that we will live again and be as a family together through all eternity. We are so grateful for the atonement of Jesus Christ that gave us the opportunity to live eternally. We are so grateful for this beautiful earth you give us, the many wonderful things that we enjoy in our lives, our families, our relationships. May we cherish them in our hearts, because once we're gone, all we have is the memories. Take Manuel home, embrace him in your arms, and hold him safe until his family can be with him again, and they can celebrate and be together as a family for all time and all eternity. We are so grateful, Heavenly Father, and we love and we need you in our lives. Protect us and comfort us in this hour of need. In the name of your beloved Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carl. I am one of the service directors. My partners are Eric and Jessica. We'd like to thank everybody for coming and showing your love and support today. At this time, we're going to invite the pallbearers to come forward and start lining up behind the casket. We'd like to invite, once we start walking, for immediate family to follow the pallbearers. At that point, we're going to invite everyone to stand up. When we exit, we're going to exit this way and exit through the doors to that side. We invite everyone to start following us once we start passing these pews here. For those of you who are not planning on going to the cemetery, we'd like to thank you again for coming, showing your love and support. Please remember the family at this time in your thoughts and your prayers. But at this time, we'd like to invite first the pallbearers, then immediate family. Thank you.